Greetings, friends, and welcome to the very first episode of Voice from the Podcast. This is a Federation's Most Wanted spin-off concept that I hope lands well and hope continues. You've all heard Federation's Most Wanted, right? I seek, locate, and interview fans from across the Blake Seven verse and dive into the questions we want answered. But in the process of doing so, I found I was left with even more questions rather than answers. That I found, there was fans out there with great other projects and other bits that I equally wanted to dive into and learn more about. So for this very first one, we're bringing back our dear friend of the show, Quod Matter, who runs his own show, The Show, as we referenced last time, on YouTube. I've got seriously OCD autism addicted to the show. So I wanted Matt to come back and have a chat about it. So Quad, welcome, sir.
Welcome. I'm glad that we could talk about this because I think this is the first time anybody's actually interviewed me about this thing. So let's go. I'm looking forward to this.
And I will say one of the things that I'm most looking forward to is the very first question, which is where I get you to tell right now, the guys out there, what is the show and what's it about? Because I tried this the other day to sell the concept to someone, and it must have taken me 15 attempts to get it into like a version that makes sense. So I'd love to hear how you can describe for the guys what the show is.
It is actually very easy to describe. And that description is you have this corrupt television company who have kidnapped a bunch of people, plonked them in this realm, and record their actions without consent. It's then back and forth between the prisoners in the realm who are trying to, survive on very limited amounts of food, money, etc., and all the escapades they get into versus the troubles behind the camera. That is pretty much the show in a nutshell, really.
And you've got some also other elements tucked in there, like you do some reviewing across some of the episodes of
yes,
cult phenomenons, like there's a bit of Sonic reviewing. Dare we say a bit of Bubsy the Bobcat and the demonic
don't start me on bloody Bubsy the Bobcat.
So there's a lot of other layers to it. It's not, and this is why I kind of almost struggled in the beginning to sort of sell it. Was it's quite nuanced, and it's heavy on that sort of 60s, 70s, almost psychedelic prisoner stuff as well.
I mean, there was a number of elements sort of came in to make that. And first, I hadn't even seen The Prisoners. So when I found out the concept was similar, I thought, oh no, somebody's going to accuse me of nicking this. But when I actually watched it, I went, oh no, this is giving me ideas of my own. Great, lovely. It was really more inspired by Magical Mystery Tour, the infamously hated Beatles film, which pretty much revolves around a bunch of people on a coach trip being poked and prodded and all sorts by a bunch of wizards who don't know what they're doing. And I liked that concept, and I thought, well, I could do that better. Totally no ego, Matt. Definitely, really selling yourself here.
Absolutely, but and also, people might be thinking, what's there's got to be a Blake Seven link, surely, but there is.
There's tons of it.
Tons of it. You've got sound effects in there. You've got Dudley Simpson in there. You've also got, dare I say, a character that's sort of heavily Blake Seven influenced in Desi, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, Desi was, I liked the idea of Aurak, so I thought, I would like to have an equivalent. So I wrote one. Desi wasn't always going to be an Aurak-y character, though. He's originally going to be more sort of flat computer. But once I saw Aurak, I went, no, I want to do something more like that, more sarcastic, slightly a computer with a personality, I want to say. So that's been interesting because you've had people come up with ideas like, well, if it's just a computer and he's got a personality, does that make him entirely computer? Going into the whole sentient AI type and things like that. Which, I mean, I can't wait to see how they develop it, if they will answer my messages.
But also, another thing I absolutely love on the show is, Blake Seven famously, nearly zero budget, bit of make do amends going on, hair dryers made into spaceships and stuff like that. But then you kind of do the same in that, you've taken a series of retro everyday objects almost, and turn them into awesome props. So, Desi, the Aurak style supercomputer, is a
Nintendo DSi.
Yeah,
I mean, where do you think his name came from?
The first time I saw it, it was like, hang on, I recognise that prop. Yeah, and also I absolutely loved that there was a genuine, I had to pause it while I chuckled moment of the character that you play on the show, because you, as well as sort of writing and directing and doing the camera work, you do star in it. The character that you play there, their mobile phone is a classic Game Boy Advance flip phone, flip one.
Yes.
And that was cool. I rather like that.
I mean, I didn't even attempt to explain it. It was a joke I just put into the script. I remember it's funny because it debuts in Yuletide from Hell, which was the Christmas video of 2021. And when I put that into the script, I remember Polar, who played one version of Jim, we'll get to that, I think.
Mm.
Polar looked at the script and said, "Wait, why is he using a GB?" I said, "Don't even question it." And he went,
Yeah.
"Okay, you know what? I won't."
Yeah, do you know what? And that's another thing I do really love in it. It's like I keep going to go the show that's called the show. The show. One thing I do love in the show is that lack sometimes of explanation. There's a great
Yes,
feeling of this is just the way it is.
this is the
Deal with
norm.
it, move on. And I do like that. One of the things I
Hmm.
was going to ask you about, you've kind of almost leapt onto it there, was for the guys out there, there's a character in all of Series A. Again, I'm loving that Series A,
Yep, series
called
A,
Jim Blake,
Jim
and
Blake.
he's a missing YouTuber that's that's arrived in this other dimension. But when you jump ahead to Series B, equally love that. It's played by a different actor. Well, yeah. So there's Jim 1 and Jim 2. So what was that all about?
Okay, so before we continue, I may as well give a rundown of who everybody is
Yeah.
in front of the camera as opposed to people behind the camera, because that would take a little bit longer. In front of the camera, you've got Matt, who is self-insert, shameless self-insert. Reggie, who is an alien monkey, I used a puppet for that because I didn't want to go the CGI route; it would look terrible. Desi, obviously the ORAC equivalent that's in a DS. Jim, YouTube criminal who is being chased by Inspector McGee and Deputy Inspector Reynolds, Dumb and Dumber, respectively.
Mm,
And then you've got Frazoid, who is significantly more interesting. He walks about the place wearing a knight's helmet. Don't question it, that's just how
yeah.
he
Very
appears.
Python. I love it.
But the thing with Jim was I'd written Jim as this sort of blustering, dramatic idiot. The type of guy who you present him with you present the lads, the collected group, with, oh, here is this revolutionary concept. Matt would sort of laugh it off like, you can't be serious. Fraz would look at it like, are you kidding me right now?
Mm,
Jim would be like, oh no, what is this thing you have
mm.
presented to me? Really sort of opening night of Hamlet. That was the joke is he was the one who you could never gauge what his reaction was going to be. He was always gloriously unpredictable. But when I cast him, the guy who played him Polar played it completely straight. He didn't do the dramatic thing. And all right, I will admit something. I am a bit of an introvert, right? And
Mm,
I didn't want to tell him it wasn't what I was looking for.
mm.
So I just rolled with it. I just sort of, okay, this is how he's going to do it. Right. Don't question it. Just continue on. I still wrote him like the blustering idiot, knowing he wasn't going to do it that way. Just thinking maybe I'll get around to telling him.
Yeah.
Long story short, a lot of complications, shall we say? I don't want to get into too much
Mm.
detail.
Yeah.
Happened behind the camera. The main one being that he wasn't available as much. Other ones being
Very Greif
more.
Boucher. Yeah.
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 Other ones being significantly more, shall we say, personal with him that he
Okay.
didn't disclose to me at first. That ultimately I ended up with the only option being to kill him off while I considered my options. And the problem was we had like one or two things, maybe even three things already written with Jim in mind for Series B. So I was, panic stations with
Mm.
Fraz, sitting and thinking, like, what the hell do we do? And Fraz went, well, resurrect him, reincarnate him, move past it, don't explain it. I went, okay, we'll do that. So don't shake the hand thing. So I called my mate Connor, who played Dirkbit in Foresight and Foresight, this bit character that only shows up once every season. And I said to him, do you want the good news or the bad news? He said, okay, what's the bad news? I told him, and he went, oh, okay, what's the good news? You've just got another character. But he played it as written, which is the different thing. So if you look at the early episodes and you see Jim is this sort of cool, laid back man,
Mm.
nothing phases him. Then you go into series B and it's like, Avast ye, what are you doing?
Yes,
That's more
definitely.
what I wanted.
Right. So we've got to those. So what would you say? So we've done more or less 2 series now, I'm guessing, in terms of
We're about
episode.
halfway through series
Okay.
B.
What's the biggest challenge when you're doing something like this? Is it the writing, the editing, wrangling the actors, do the directing? What's the big one?
The actors was the hardest part, I think, because one, you have to sell them on it. So
Mm,
I thought, I'm not going to go outside my friend zone, clever,
mm,
because I'm going to go with people who already put up with me. Get them to do it, because I mean, I already knew all of them, and it was no hard task asking them, do you want to be silly in front of the camera for 20, 30 minutes at a time? Sure, why not? Let's go to the park, see you there. Bring
mm.
appropriate clothing. Um, but I mean, there is one we've had a bit of trouble with for the past while. A character who was meant to be introduced. There's a reason there's this big gap between Shades of Iniquity, Rushy's first script, and the game, which, as far as I can tell from what we talked about before, is your favorite episode.
It is indeed.
There's a gap between that because what was meant to happen in between was that we were meant to try and find someone to play this female character we'd written called Kira, who was part of the problem with Jim in the first place. But that's neither here nor there.
Mm.
Let's not talk about that. The problem was we didn't know any girls who would be into doing that. I mean, you can tell a fella here, we're gonna be stupid in front of the camera. Do you want to do it? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah,
Sign me up. You can't do that with a girl, from my experience. You can't just say that. You need to be more persuasive. And I was like, I am not the bravest man. I'm not gonna do that. So we kept asking, I kept asking those, do you know anybody? Well, I'll ask. Well, did they say anything? No, they didn't get back to me. For God's sake,
uh,
all this sort of stuff. So we kept putting her introduction off. So I thought, for God's sake, might as well just continue with the series. We'll worry about it next time.
absolutely. And you mentioned that something I was going to point out actually. Our friend Bob Rushy from Blake Seven Fandom from Twitter, like you
Hmm.
say, has written episodes, been involved, voices.
That came about because I joked with him in the DMs once. I said, because he'd written 2 Blake 7 fan scripts that are on his blog, which you'd probably link to. But I thought they were great. So I joked, oh, when can we expect the Rushy written episode of the show? And he said, why, what would you need? He said, I said, this, that, and the other. And he said, well, can you give me an outline? I wrote one and I sent it to him. About 2 weeks later, I look in my DMs. There is a PDF.
Mm.
I went, what? Huh? It is actually writing. Okay. Oh, okay. So I read it. I loved every minute of it. But that had to be edited as well, considering the original Jim situation. That was meant to be in Series A. In fact, I was going to
Right.
put it as the last episode of Series A, but then one thing led to another, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
But yeah, he's writing another one, which I believe he's calling Terror of the Something, which I love. I just love that
That is
title.
cool. That is cool.
So there's that. A couple of other members of, another member of Blake 7 fandom, that being our good friend Dr. Whom, is writing one called
Oh,
Voice from the
brilliant.
Present, which all I can say about that is that someone resembling Brian Blessed is in it, and I'm not going to say anything else.
Brilliant stuff. So some other bits and pieces I wanted to jump in there with you. So you've mentioned before, it's kind of a friendship circle thing, all the cast friendship. What about behind the cameras? Who have you got helping you out there, or is it all you?
It's me and a couple of other people, and the one thing that actually surprised me was that when I told my dad about the concept, he said, "Can I help out?" And he has for every video since Yuletide from Hell. He's been there doing camera work. He even suggested a couple of line alterations, some ad libs and things like that. So he's an invaluable resource to us. In fact, he's writing one as well. I
Oh,
didn't
right.
ask
Oh,
him to.
brilliant.
He's writing one though, so that's
Excellent.
that's fun.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, I mean, like I said, I've been vocal in my admiration of the show on your comments, other bits and pieces. But
I've
I
seen.
absolutely love an episode, a couple of episodes back. There's an episode called "The Game," and it's got one of my favourite sort of old school tropes, which is the evil twin.
The
Um,
evil twin, yes. Good
and
old Omega.
yeah, so again, for those of you that haven't picked it up, Quad also plays his own evil twin. So you have the great sort of camera cut scenes of them talking over a table. Um,
Yes.
Omega's got this great speaking voice. He's got this great look with his kind of his trilby hat on, which I really like. He's much more theatrical.
Much more theatrical in how he says things.
He's absolutely brilliant. And what really made me smile was on your Patreon, you've got some extra features for lovely subscribers,
Yes.
and you've got on there a bloopers reel. And I was sitting there the other day watching the bloopers reel, and there's a bit in it when you're playing Omega for the first time, and you're sat at this desk, and you say to off camera, you do a line, and then you say, "Oh, this character's going to go down great. I know it." And I love
Yes.
that because I thought, absolutely, he's so well done. I
I
really
just
do.
knew when I wrote him that people were going to react well. I didn't think they'd react that well to it because I remember my friends in the DMs were going, Omega's fantastic. Omega's. It's like, wait, what? I thought he would go down well. I thought people would like him. I didn't think people would like him that much. I
Yeah,
mean,
and I mean, I love the as well. It's sort of anybody that gets into the show, it's kind of those sort of ancillary bits you've put out there as well. Like, the other day you published a script reading of one of the scripts,
mm,
and lost scripts and bits like that. It's brilliant the sort of the additional stuff you've put out there. So you mentioned filming locations. So you film
yes.
all relatively close by.
We're filming places that everybody can access because it made the most amount of sense to me. Just somewhere that everybody knew, and again, stuff that was easy to access, things that didn't need a lot of pre-planning or stuff like that to go there. It's one of those the park that represents Foresight, both of them. Yeah, because there's two. There's the one that appears in Scapegoat, and then the one that replaces it from Foresight onwards. I mean, that's one place that everybody could access. I mean, because you got Cramster who plays Reynolds. He lives literally almost like just up the road from it. You had Fraz lived relatively close. I was the one who had to travel the most. I want to point that out. I was the one who had to travel further afield, but it made it easier for everybody else. Because if it was just like, that place there, like, oh yeah, I can just walk to that or can drive to that, easy enough. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't that difficult, just tell them, go here. All right, cool. What do I need to bring with me? This, and this. Good. All right, fine. Cheers. See you there.
There's some great, because you are filming in these sort of free access public locations. There has been some bits I've really enjoyed. Like there's a shot in it where you kind of walk up a pathway towards the camera, and the other character in the knight's helmet,
The
Frazoid,
Fraz, yeah.
comes forward, and in the background you've got a lady just walking up the path, and you can
Yes.
see, as you two are having an exchange, you can visibly see the moment where she opts to slow down walking because there's some sort of
Like,
weird thing going up ahead with a guy in a
like
knight's helmet.
what? Why is he in a knight's helmet?
I loved it, and I had to go back genuinely and re-listen to the dialogue because I got too distracted by this poor lady in the background. And then there was another
There's a
one.
thing. Interestingly, I've got an anecdote about that. We
Yeah,
went when we were doing Dark Matter, which is still my favorite episode because everything went right that could have possibly gone right. Nothing went wrong with it. Well, okay, there was one thing, but it was relatively minor, to be fair. At Dark Matter, we went to the park that's in there. It's a different one. And when we were doing that, we're in the middle of a shot, and we suddenly we're in the middle. I'm walking down, holding the thing with the camera on it, and Fraz is walking down. He has his helmet on. We're just sauntering down the thing. We turn around and we notice, almost Pied Piper style, there's a bunch of kids following us. No, but it gets even better. There's my favorite shot in it is when we get to the duck pond. Fraz leans over the railings and he looks out, sort of
yeah.
out to do the thing. It's a lovely shot. 10 seconds after I finished pressing the button to stop recording, an old lady, her husband, and her grandchild came up. And the old lady said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" I said, "We're filming for a project." He said, this little one was curious because he saw your friend in the
Ah.
helmet there, and I thought, aha. No, it's kind of ironic considering the videos are not aimed at children at all.
Yeah, and Joe, I love the variety of different disclaimers you've used at the start of the episodes as well. I do love a
Yeah,
good trigger warning, and there's one that does specifically say about, we're not
we're not
babysitters for
your
your kids.
babysitters.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was my favorite. I love that one. But I'll just quickly going to say on this one, there was another point in I want to say it was the first one that had Jim 2 in, and he's
Hmm.
doing a bit to camera wearing a bright pink beanie hat and
Yes.
in on a hillside in the background, I think it's a small girl. It's hard to tell from the distance.
Yes.
Walks along, and she appears to walk in one ear and walk out the other because of the
Dad
relative
mentions
framing.
this in the outtakes. If you watch it,
I
you hear him.
honestly, I loved it. I thought again, just considering there's kind of for me. I feel a lot of Monty Python undertones in some of the bits you've got in there. It's just,
Hmm.
I could see Gilliam sitting there going, "Nice," that was great. I did enjoy it. Yeah, really cool stuff. So,
Hmm.
in terms of when you mentioned about filming them, what do you use physically equipment wise? Do you use a camera or is it an iPhone or what do you use to capture these?
Two things are used to do that. There's a wee GoPro 8, this one here. You can see it. Demons at home can't.
No,
I use that and my phone, mainly on slightly lower quality settings because I want to get that sort of old rustic kind of
mm,
film stock look, you know. The
yeah,
the idea being that the whole thing with the Beta Realm is that this is the main location, is that the place is heavily unstable. And the joke that Franz came up with is, well, what if the instability of the realm also affected the picture?
yeah.
So, you know, it's not only has it affected everybody in it, it's also affecting reality, literally. So it looks like a degrading piece of film, which gets worse over time.
Okay. Do you know? So that's another thing you've brought me nicely onto is one of the features I absolutely love is the look you've given it. So that
Hmm,
kind of scratched film. You've even got the sort of the clicking scratch sound in the background.
yes.
Is that hard to do? I don't know anything about video post production, so putting that
Well,
on.
it was difficult at first. It was the main reason why videos like Scapegoat took longer to do because I hadn't figured out quite how to make it the way that I wanted it to. But then my common sense kicked in by the time I made stupid bloody no, by the time I was making the game and I went, wait a minute, I can just make this as a filter. You idiot. Hadn't you figured this out at the start? Like,
Okay,
duh.
okay,
Like it's the
yeah.
most obvious thing to do. And I went to sort of, oh, why didn't I think of that? But oh, for God's sake. So put all the elements in, turned up the noise of the scratches, rendered that out, and then just put it over the footage. I went, why didn't I do
Oh
this from the
wow.
start? Why didn't
But
I do this from the start?
there's loads of really cool sort of, I don't know if it's filtering, but visual effects you kind of use on it. And there was one relatively recently where there was almost like a kaleidoscope effect at the end of one of the episodes and the beginning of the
Yes,
next. And I watched you'd posted like a bit of a making of, and you were saying on there it was actually from an old laser disc from a
it is. It is. The
brilliant.
kaleidoscopic thing, that little spirograph, I thought
Yeah.
looked cool. So I just went, yoink, and just
Yeah.
put it in.
But do you know what? I watched that and went because as a youngster, Dad had a laserdisc player and we had lots of
Yeah,
films on laserdisc, you know. And when you genuinely go, I've seen that somewhere before,
yes.
and it really bugs me for the long. And I was so close to DMing you, going, where the hell put me out of my misery, Matt? Where is it? And then I watched your making of, so it was great. Again, I love those sort of additional materials you've done. I hope you're going to do some more because I really did enjoy
I will do.
with the
I
making
will
of.
do.
There's one of the episodes that you talk about that was a bit more, let's say, problematic in its
Mm.
inception. And you did like a bit to camera about the how difficult that particular episode
Oh
was.
yeah,
You go
that
into
was
the
foresight
reasons.
and foresight. God,
Yeah,
that.
and one of the things I absolutely loved about that is you do this like monologue to camera about the problems, and it's like really hard on your sleeve stuff that you're really like honest, and you can see it on you even as you're
Yes,
talking about it, way probably after the event, and it still put that much of a scar on
like
you.
it was really like I was really really angry about that. It's just, oh God, man, it was so annoying. It was really really annoying. Nothing went right. In fact, like when I said in the video, it took about 18 drafts to make that work. That was the one that was mostly affected by said problem, and I might as well just address it. I'm going to get it out of the road quickly. So pretty much what happened was I'd written this character called Dr. Roberts, who was meant to be female scientist from the 1990s, who was alcoholic, always a little bit tipsy, and never always giving dubious advice. I mean, dialogue implying her presence is in Yuletide from Hell if you listen at the end, which I haven't cut because I thought might as well keep it and just make it a red herring. No, even retcon it to be a red herring. But the she was supposed to have in story conflict with Jim, and I'd written the lost episode to effectively go with that. But Jim's who plays Jim had gone and got himself a significant other, who, shall we say, didn't like the idea of him going about the place with other people who could say, I don't know. I don't know how this thing works, all right, because I've never been in a relationship. I'm just open about this on thing. Never been in one, never intend to be in one, at least not for the time being. So yeah, there was a whole load of hot and bother stuff about, jealousy and stuff like that. And I was like, guys, I'm trying to make silly videos. Can you stop? Can you leave this out of it? That wasn't the intention. And of course, I didn't even know half of what was going on. I was just sitting there attempting to address every single complaint with another draft of the script and another draft of the script and another draft of the script. And I was like, you know what? Various other words, this. I'm just going to rewrite the entire thing from scratch, and I'm going to kill him off while I consider my options here, because this is annoying. Well, things didn't quite end up the way that I wanted, even when filming it. But, I mean, I have to give credit to Fraz and Cramster, who did McGee and Reynolds in that, because they absolutely stole the show. They weren't supposed to. They were only supposed to be a bit part in it. But I thought, well, since I can't use this character now, various other words, I'm going to have them be the main sort of thing. And I mean, that was probably the only good thing that came out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd already told me when I first said I was doing like a rewatch that that was the problematic episode. So maybe I went into it with a bit of foreknowledge and went, yeah, it's slightly different. But I'm not sure if you went into it with fresh eyes, you'd see the cracks.
I mean, it's probably that, but again, I just hate it.
I think it's still, that's it now. It's tainted it. So will we see Dr. Roberts pop up? Will Dr. Roberts come in at some point, do you think? Or
no, because I've already retooled her as Kira at this point.
So that's going to be the Kira.
Completely different backstory, completely different personality.
Okay. But there you go. Maybe we can have a lost episode roundtable reading or something at some point for us.
I will invite you in there if you want.
I'll give it a go, mate. I'll give it a go. I'm not sure acting. I've never tried. I've literally never tried the acting, so who knows what that would sound like. But listen, I'm conscious that the evil Zoom clock is ticking away, and it's about to boot us off. So, Quad, just wanted to say, huge thanks for coming back again. Your first time on the mic, first time on Voice from the Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to the. That's not a problem. I look forward to the next episode of the show. When can we expect that?
At some point.
Some point. Watch this space. Have a look in the comments. I'll throw in there a link to the show. Do check it out. Sit down, glass of wine, and enjoy it. But thank you very much, my friends. I hope that you enjoy the new format. We're going to be getting some other people on as well to talk about their other side interests as well and dive into some other areas of the fandom. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.